Hello there, it's another weekend and another day spent developing my game Krush. Yep, it's Krush Dev Diary. So, last week I didn't have a full day really, I had some stuff on, I think we had some visitors over, so unfortunately not massive progress this time around, but you will notice one major difference, and that is the propagation of holes. Now obviously this isn't final, this is not how the final game's going to be, it's just for testing purposes. This just happens to be the state in which I left the game. Now, the footage later on, I fixed this, so the holes aren't quite as crazy, because it does make the game surprisingly difficult, would you believe it? But it does sort of show that holes don't spawn in adjacent locations, which at least gives the player a chance of negotiating around them, and it also helps hand-wave the fact that there's no fall logic for the bulldozer, because the bulldozer is larger than any one hole, so in theory it should never fall. There is still some logic to be done with regards to the targets. I want to make sure the targets don't spawn anywhere near a hole, and I also want to make sure that holes don't spawn anywhere near the car. So there's some work to be done on that front, but that'll come later. Alright, let's have a look at my changelog. First thing, control tweak, lower inertia. Yes, I changed the control slightly. It's not something that will come across in videos, but yeah, it's just a minor tweak to make the car feel slightly more responsive. My major goal was to make the game get progressively more difficult, a difficulty ramp, if you will. And that's precisely what I've done. You'll see in a minute or so when the longer games come in after I disable the hole propagation. There's a variety of factors that change over the course of a game. The bulldozer gets faster, the targets get smaller, your sight radius gets smaller as well. And the game, it becomes increasingly intense, it's quite good. So on the back end, there's a system now to interpolate between two figures, so I can define a start value for a parameter and an end value and the time over which it will change. And it turns out that works beautifully. So now the bulldozer speed, the turn rate, the target sight, the arrow sight range, and yeah, all of this changes slowly over the course of 5 minutes. I think 5 minutes that's when it reaches maximum difficulty, and by that point everything's pretty intense. Also in the changelog, a couple of bug fixes. There was a weird one. I think as soon as you started the game, there was a one-frame flash of a target and an arrow pointing to that target, and then it disappeared. And then once the countdown had gone, a new target would appear in a different location. Bit of an obscure one. There was a bit of logic that runs in the background to make sure the right number of targets was kept on screen all the time. So I can freely add targets and remove targets, and the game cleans up and manages everything behind the scenes. And the correct number of targets for the countdown phase is 0. That's how many there should be. There shouldn't be anything marked on screen. But it turns out for one frame, the countdown phase wasn't set properly. Nothing major, just like I say, it was a one-frame flash that eventually drove me mad enough to try and find the cause of it, and so I did. So anyway, that's about it. Like I say, I didn't have too much time to develop last week, but I'll take what I can get. Hopefully today, I don't have much on today. I have a hard and fast rule that I'm not allowed to do any work apart from work on Krush on Sundays. So despite the fact that I'm well behind on everything else, Krush comes first today, at least. So, goals for today. I kind of want to get a few things done, really. I'd like to implement a basic debrief screen that contains your score and stuff like score records. At least to get the very, very basics done there. And I'd also quite like to do some titling as well. Everything's quite demure and plain at the minute, and I'd like to get some character into some of the typography. So I'd maybe look for something a little more rambunctious, to serve as a contrast to the relatively austere Gotham for the serious HUD. So for stuff like power-ups and maybe phase transitions, I might try a different style. I have something in mind, and I'm going to experiment with it. One of the major influences I have are stickers. I've been playing a bit of Counter-Strike Global Offensive, and Dirt 2 springs to mind as well. That had kind of a neon sticker thing going on. So that's kind of the visual style I'm thinking of. I don't know how successfully I'll be able to implement it, but I'm thinking maybe I'll try some sticker-esque transitions. It might be beyond me, but I'm going to do some experiments anyway. So, I don't have the clearest goals for today, other than, you know, do basic debrief screen, experiment with some titling maybe. But I think, you know, every once in a while you do need to have a slightly more open structured day. It's good to take time out, you know, to debug and to just, you know, fiddle and tweak and refine stuff. So that's what I'll be doing. Hopefully, if nothing else, by next week I'll have an idea of, an area that needs some serious work doing to it. Maybe I'll take some of the graphics work that I do today and, I'll spend the day writing a routine to do a fancy transition for the titling, for the fancy titles, Maybe I'll take the basic debrief screen and I'll expand it into something much more in-depth, much more useful. Anyway, hopefully there'll be some cool stuff that I come up with for next week. And so, until then, farewell.